Mm, do, do, do. And there we go. We're
Hey,
back.
Hayden.
Hey.
It may have been a mix-up with your emails. For some reason, I got an email from you about 5 minutes ago saying, see you tomorrow at noon. And I was like, tomorrow? I thought we were meeting now. And so we were both sort of in that, we must have both been in that gray zone.
Oh.
Yeah. Was that an email you sent me
Nope.
yesterday? Just landed now? 12:04?
I sent you an email asking if we were meeting today.
I've got an email from you that looks like that says it came in 6 minutes ago, saying that you thought we were meeting tomorrow at 12. See you tomorrow at 12. But maybe that was, I'll just show it to you here. Doesn't matter. We're here now, but this is the email I just got from you. See you tomorrow at 12. And it just came through 6 minutes ago. Weird.
Yeah, I think that one's. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I sent that one yesterday.
I wondered. Yeah, I thought, and because then I got your other email saying, "Are we here?" So yeah, we were both in the limbo zone. How are you today? Are you at your grandma's again? It looks like,
Yep.
eh?
I'm at my grandma's. Then I'm heading home later today. But for now I'm here.
Very cool. Thank you. Sorry for being so wonky with times. This week is just a really weird week. And so I feel like I'm a moving target for you. So I'm so sorry to create that tumult. Thank you for being willing to
It's
accommodate
okay.
that.
Don't worry. I get it. Shit happens.
There we go. By the time I think we hit the week after next, we should be out of this quagmire. Okay, here we go. Perfect. Okay, let me pull this up. I'm just going to go to the top of this. So this was a chapter that I thought we can definitely spend some time sort of figuring out what's the best way to move forward with it. This was good. The ideas were here. It feels like it was, my general impression was that the main thing happening seems pretty clear and straightforward. Here, I'll just make it a little bigger, but it feels like it's definitely sort of at the beginning stage of getting to where it needs to be. And I'll just sort of give you my thoughts as we go, because it feels like we're introduced, like for me as the reader, I was not being introduced to the El Noon for the first time, as in, of course, I've heard of them before, but this seemed to be the first time we were kind of getting into their sort of zone and seeing the world from their perspective. And the way the general way they're coming across here is very interesting. There's some really cool ideas in terms of the potential here, but they sort of came across as sort of a somewhat two-dimensional, kind of like, oh, it was that easy to get rid of them. So I thought the suggestions I'm going to make, rather than going into all the detail, was to the purple note up at the top was that things are moving quick enough that I'm not really able to keep up with the amount of information you're sharing with me in a short amount of time. And it feels like the kind of detail that if I was reading a book or watching a show or something, I would want a person to kind of move much slower to let me kind of get inside their heads. So Azmathet, the first thing I had, minor things that kind of, Azmathet, you refer to, I wasn't sure what that was at first, and I realized it's a name. Oh, okay, it's a name. And then I figured out, okay, because sometimes you refer to Azmathet as them, and sometimes as him. And so I wasn't sure what, at first I thought it was a they, like a plural. So I wasn't sure. So you might just want to clarify, make it consistently him, if it's male, for example, the whole time. I love this. Azimuthite is very. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. Is it Azimuthite?
It's whatever you want it to be. It doesn't matter.
It's a great name. I thought it was really, really cool. First thing I want to recommend is give me a sense of space. So slow down a little bit. Let's sort of describe the space. So like physically, what does it look like and stuff? That's usually, especially with fiction, you want to create a mental picture in the people's minds, and I can see that you're trying to do that. I love the way this person thinks too, by the way, that these primitive brains weren't so tasty. I love the idea that they're good for one thing. Their brains, with the thing that makes them uniquely the most intelligent thing on this planet, is just a great meal for these El Noon. I thought that was really super cool. So the big ticket items that I want to recommend, you can write these down if you want, are slow down, spend a little more time. These are my recommendations with him specifically and the El Noon in general, and give us a sense of who they are and what they're about, because it also happens, it moves pretty quick in terms of what's happening as we go down here. I'll get to it when we get to any explanation of sort of what their plan is or what their intention is with the humans. It happens so quickly that I'm like, I don't barely know these people. I'm still trying to figure out who Azmathet is, and I'm getting kind of a bit of an info dump. Slowing down will take care of that, I
So
think.
maybe dump another Al Noon in there and have him, like, mock Azimathet.
That's one option for sure. It's one of those, it's there's no one way to do this, and I struggle with it sometimes when I'm writing. It's like, okay, you're introducing, with any substance that is, you're introducing a whole new species, a whole new creature. What kinds of questions will the reader logically have? And this is something that every writer struggles with, myself included. Because we know so much about the characters and what's happening, the biggest mistake we make as writers is failing to sort of going back and realizing the reader knows nothing except whatever we've told them. So we kind of have to, everything that stuff we know, we've got to kind of slowly layer in. So for example, with these guys, I get stuff like their beachhead in this world had been a success. That's cool, by the way. They had successfully tricked the locals into opening a portal from their side. Okay, so basically what this chapter does right from the very beginning, you've spent several chapters building the mystery of what's going on and what are they going to find and everything else like that. And then this chapter, it feels like you just drop the curtain entirely. It's like, here's the whole thing. And it's sort of like, oh, we were doing this nice slow sort of foreplay. It's sort of like, forgive again, I'm use a totally inappropriate sexual analogy. It's like going to first base and saying, okay, let's go home. It's like, oh, no, wait a minute, what about second and third? Because that's half the fun, is running the bases, right? So I thought, oh, I kind of don't want you to tell me everything in this chapter, but then it occurred to me, oh, you kind of have to, because as soon as we realized that, I'm just going to jump right down here. We jump down to Julius and Ramona, sort of trapped in that cool thing that they're kind of stuck to the wall with. There wasn't really a clear sense of stakes. So in other words, it never felt like they were really in any danger, because we get this really, really, really brief introduction to what's even happening with them. Proves confidence less than 1 year. Some of this stuff I just didn't understand what it meant, so I'll leave that. You can kind of look through that at your leisure. Things like Esmethet lashed out at his mind. Okay, so, well, I'm glad. So here's when we get introduced to Julius. Julius is clearly not even remotely afraid of this guy. Neither is Ramona. They've made a bet about what he would say. So it's like the whole thing read like a wah, wah, wah. Like, these Al Noon aren't. I can't take them seriously. These guys aren't even afraid of them, and they totally was nothing to get to conquer them, kind of thing like that. So they never seemed scary to me, and I thought, if the whole point is to create a sense of menace and threat with the Al Noon, that's what I would encourage you. Spend some time making me scared of them. Right now, I'm just like, these guys are like the aliens in the Tim Burton movie Mars Attacks, right? Like they just sort of appear and go, waka, 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 waka. They're dead. Part of that is going to be sort of signaled by Julius's and Ramona's reaction. So Ramona, you've given this great example in every chapter of Ramona being genuinely scared shitless every time something new comes along that's genuinely frightening and terrifying. I assume the Al Noon should be the scariest thing of all, but they're just kind of making jokes. So I wanted to, and plus, if there's no threat, if there's no stakes, if they're not really a menace, the reader's going to kind of probably skip the chapter, and probably don't even need to mention this guy's name, because I'm assuming, I mean, he's dead so fast, I'm assuming we're never seeing him again.
No.
So you could easily just say, no problem giving him a name, but
Unless we
usually
want to clone him, we could do that for fun.
that could be cool. Especially if they get, okay, there's something there, especially if they got rid of him this fast, right? Interesting. Coming down here, excuse me. Oh, coming back up here to the, because it's sort of all over the place. I'm going to go where he says, so he lashed out his mind for his insolence, but found nothing. Raising his hand, he shot a bolt of lightning. So he's got two powers. And again, this is all in the first page. So I'm introduced to Azmathet. I'm introduced to sort of the Al Noon objective. I'm introduced to these two powers. I'm like, whoa, that's a lot to be throwing at me. And then we get the basically non-reaction of Julius and Ramona, because they don't clearly take this guy seriously. But I was like, okay, so what it feels like you have now is you've got all the raw materials for what this chapter should and can be. And now we have to figure out, how do we slow it down and sort of stretch it out? Like, what, he's got the ability to lash out at his mind. Like, plus I wasn't clear at first. It's described as he lashed out at his mind and didn't find anything. So at first I thought, oh, wait a minute, that sounds like I thought lashing was like like if it felt like it was like it meant to be like a sort of a
Okay, so
mentally violent act.
telepathically lashed out at his mind would be a better.
Yeah, no, and I picked that up. I figured that's what you meant, but it sounded like he's lashing out at him, but at the same time he's reading his mind, and I wasn't able to parse the difference until later it explained, oh, so it sounded like what he was doing was mentally torturing him. But then I thought like, oh, but he's sort of also looking for information while he's doing it. And then there's this lightning bolt, and I'm like, what? There was just a lot happening. So you might want to see it's kind of an orgy of cool stuff, easy to do.
So what
Um,
I'm mostly hearing is just expand, expand, expand.
expand and potentially simplify. Potentially save some stuff for later, because it feels like a wonderful kind of a treasure trove of ideas, but they're still sort of being shaped and need to figure, what do you tell the audience when, and what can you save for later? Words like enthrallment, again, technically most people would see that as a word that the definition of enthrallment is that, to be fascinated by something. So it was like, what? So that was obviously a unique term that means something unique to Azmathet. Um,
Hmm.
let's see here. Mind wart. Is that meant to say, what is a mind wart?
It's a plant that prevents people from reading your mind if you eat it.
Interesting. Okay, so that would definitely be a term you need to unpack, because I would assume the majority of people wouldn't necessarily come with that knowledge prior. Um,
Also, he's not speaking English. This is all telepathy. Technically, they don't even speak. They'll just
okay.
project their thoughts across the room.
Okay, I definitely didn't pick up on that because you've got Esmathet stated. So it sounds like he's definitely saying it.
So
Um,
just put
so
telepathically in front of everything after
yeah,
Aspen.
if there's that solves another problem I had too, which is like neither like Ramona is me. I have to remember that, and Julius sounds like he doesn't really know a lot about the El Noon either, except what he's seen or heard and along the way with what you say later. So neither of these, and especially Ramona, has ever seen one of these before, and it's not. She has no emotional reaction to the look of it, the fact that it speaks English or mentally speaks English. So her reaction, I would sort of, my suggestion would be,
Bring up more of
you
Ramona's crap.
yeah, if you want me to be scared of these sort of things, give it to me sort of not through her eyes, but sort of from her perspective. And Julius, who sounds like he just knows a little bit more, I wouldn't even be bothered if he was a little like, I really want to believe that there's some potential danger from these El Noon before they kind of subdue them. Blasted his lightning into the human's chest as he screamed at him telepathically, but we never see any reaction from Julius or Ramona to being blasted by lightning and being screamed at telepathically, like literally no reaction. So that would be a good thing to sort of give us as that reaction. Um, we talked about the bet. I mean, this is clever. I like the idea of the bet, and I can see them like once they've sort of dealt with the El Noon a bit, I can see like several chapters from now this conversation happening, but it didn't quite feel appropriate here just because.
So maybe immediately after his death, then.
Maybe, yeah. Let me just see here. All the oranges are just spelling things. Just a reminder with me, Hayden, or with anybody, and I know these are first drafts, and this is something you'd like to tackle later. When there's that many kind of spelling things, and I'm like stopping at every point, it's hard for me to let the flow of the story hit. So again, just want to invite you to do that while you're writing. Talked about that already. So let me just to understand what's happened here is when Julius attacks this guy, when he says, "What the fuck?" He's saying that because it's like, wow, that was too easy to kill this thing. Is that what that is?
Yes.
Okay. That's good because that raised serious. I liked that. That was sort of like, oh, okay. I would clarify that that's why he's saying it, because I was almost got that I had to sort of figure out that that's why he was saying it. You probably think, oh, it's obvious right there. Yeah, he hits his head like a pumpkin and goes, what the fuck? Clearly, that's what he means. It wasn't clear. So just make sure that becomes clear. But it raised this really cool question in my mind. It's like, oh, okay, naturally thought this should be harder. And my thought would be is if you go back and you do create that greater sense of menace and fear and all that stuff, and then you make it look like, no, they're going to die here. There's actually a reasonable chance that Julius and Rona, of course, I know they're not going to die, but I want to believe they might. And it's sort of like that Achilles heel thing where like, this thing is invulnerable. And, like then you stick your finger up its nose and its head blows up and you're like, oh, that's all it took. That's funny. And that works. So long as I've been scared prior to that. Little things like repetitive phrases, you go through that and you'll see that. It's just the Eldritch Magic 4 times in 3 sentences. Here we go. Terms as well, because earlier there was something that I think our big bad says that was, it was this. So this was a typical example, to maybe the best example, and not a ton of them. I tricked the humans into opening the portal to our world. I created the Count Pronounce at Hive, and even now I harvest the Elder Tears to empower myself. I control your pathetic kin. Even now my servants work to build the ziggurat so as to expand the portal within these halls and bring forth my servants to this little world. I read that and I went, I'm lost. And I thought, bits and pieces of it I get, but I think there's a great example of where Hayden's brain is bigger than most readers. And I mean that as a compliment, because you're like, I got these big ideas. And I'm like, nope, break it down and simplify it. Talk to me like I'm 5 a little bit. And because here I harvest the Elder Tears, but we don't actually get any meaningful definition of what that means until several pages later. And so it was like, I needed that information up when you mentioned it, because I'm like, you're just speaking Greek to me, Abalubi, whatever your name is. Elder Tears means nothing to me if you're not going to define it to me there. Food for thought in terms of how you define it or where you define it. Mention of Morty and I think that's, I mean, I don't remember.
That was something that got left over from the original script.
Oh, okay, perfect. And also,
I don't mind.
Yeah, I don't mind these, and this may have been something from the past too. I love these explanations. Like for example, what you have here, the explanation of common problem with carbon mana-based species and so on. But because this has happened right on the tails of killings, it felt like sort of an odd sort of almost lesson in the middle of a moment that probably that wouldn't quite happen. So that might just be a matter, and it was close to the end where I'm waiting for the suspense to build and get that hook to make me want to keep reading. But I do love, by the way, pressing the start button on the nuclear detonator, he leapt off the ledge, his gun drawn as he descended on the El Noon. Like that's a great kind of thing to make me go, whoa, I gotta keep reading. But big notes, it feels like this chapter is about 60 to 65% finished.
Okay.
And all the raw materials are here, and I'm just looking for you to potentially slow down. Let me spend a little more time in each moment and feel scared.
But just make it bigger.
Yeah, make it bigger, but know why you're making it bigger strategically, so you understand the purpose of that is to make me really believe there's the possibility they could die, and to take those are the big things. I want to believe they could actually die, and I want to take the El Noon seriously as a serious threat. Right now, they're coming across as a bit of a clown show, and I know you don't mean that.
Yeah, so I'm thinking big things I need to add. A second El Noon to kind of confront Azimuthette.
Okay.
I also need Julius to pretend like he's actually concerned about being imprisoned, so that he can get more information out of Azimuthette. I need Ramona's side of the story in prison.
Well, my suggestion was too, like your first line is ripe with potential. He's gliding along the hallways of his fortress. Describe the fortress to me. Oh, I want to see what that looks like. I need a mental pic. Like this is the Lovecraftian thing that I think we both kind of love. Is that Lovecraft? Some people hate this when he does this. I love it when he does this, and don't do it like he does it necessarily. He takes a long time to describe a cavern or a forest or a mountain. But I mean, when he does that, love him or hate him for going into that much detail, I can visually see what he's talking about. And I'm like, Cthulhu scares the shit out of me because it's so vivid and it's so real. So I would go to Lovecraft and then maybe pull it back a bit. Somewhere between this and Lovecraft is your sweet spot.
Okay.
There you go. That's otherwise, generally, structurally, it's really clear what's happening in this, and I think those changes will just give it a little more zest. What's your plan for releasing this? You want to get this out soon?
Okay, so I just released the current chapter today at 12.
Okay.
So we have Monday. We have 2 Mondays after this. Then I have to release it on the second Tuesday.
2 Mondays after this.
Yeah, we got.
So the date? Give me the date if you can.
Sure. Just 1 minute. I'm waiting for my calendar to pop up. Come on. July 4th. Actually, yeah, July 4th. I think. Yeah.
Okay, now this is the next thing we need to talk about anyway. So let me just see here. 4 sessions, June. Okay, so we're just gonna keep. Yeah, you're still on your bank sessions, which is great. And you know what? Let's go all the way up to July 4th. I've got us for June. Let's just say July 4th is also part of that.
Okay.
I think it would be anyway. Let me just see. 4th. Today's the 20th. So we move on. We will be driving out of Vancouver on our way to Ontario on the 27th, which means we still technically can have a session on the 26th. How flexible are you time-wise for the 26th?
Well, I basically just show up at my nana's in the morning, and then from there it's a free day.
Okay, perfect.
I'm more than
Could
willing to
we?
put that off for a bit if it's like completely necessary for you from your side. Like like we could have it early in the morning, and then I go to nana's.
Okay, well, I was gonna suggest on the 26th that we do it like 10 in the morning.
Sure, no problem.
If that works for you, okay, perfect. Then I'll put that in there. And then so the third, I will almost be in Ontario, which is the following Monday, or the third or fourth. My suggestion would be, if you don't mind, if we could plan our session for later in that week. We'll still have it that week, but probably the 6th or 7th, if that works
So
for
we're really
you.
only going to get one more session before I have to put this out then.
Because you're putting it out, right? You're putting it out in the fourth. Let me see if we can sneak another one in then. Because I think we need more than one for this. Ooh, that's tough. The 26th. What's today? Today's the 20th. We could do one. I mean, if this isn't too rushed for you, we could technically do one on the 25th and then on the 26th, like 2 days in a row. But is that too close to each other for you?
No, I could totally do that.
Okay.
Yeah. Mixies on how much I get done in between, but
Well, it would
God, it's gonna
basically
be
mean
hectic.
that between now and Sunday at 10, it would give you that time, and then you'd basically need to spend the rest of the time on Sunday, or however you want to do that, in preparation for Monday. Is
Okay.
that putting too much pressure on you?
No, I'll muddle through somehow.
Okay. Okay, perfect. So I've got you for 10 a.m. Sunday and Monday, and then we won't worry about the following week. We'll reconnect when I'm in Ontario, which will probably be like the 5th or the 6th, but I'll keep in touch, of course, with you by email in any event.
Um, Okay, so just to confirm, 26th, 10 a.m. Wait, the 25th and the 26th this week?
That's right.
Okay.
So that'd be Sunday and Monday next week.
So, yeah, because do 10 a.m., 10 a.m. Okay. Okay. This is going to be hectic as hell.
You're gonna be like paid writer deadlines.
Yeah, Monday. Yeah, I'm basically going to have to give up Thursday, Friday, and Saturday just to do nothing but power write at this point. Hope I
Yeah,
get
and
everything.
I think you can do it, and if it gets too much for you, just let me know, and we'll adjust.
Don't worry, it's my schedule. I have to deal with it.
Okay, sounds good. I'll send you these notes here from today right away.
No problem. See you.
Take care, Hayden. Bye bye.
Take care. Bye.